Hey there friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my practical music theory course, and today we're going to talk about Roman numeral notation. And what this refers to is a way to number each of the chords in any key. And it gives us this nice efficiency when it comes to communicating if a chord is major or minor in addition to the numbers, but we can do this all at the same time. So let's really quickly look at this. So previously I showed you these chords in each key, right? If we look at the 5 most common keys, for example, for each of the 7 notes in the major scale for whatever key we're in, I talked about how the chords in that key are just based off this one pattern, right? Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, and then diminished. So we effectively just apply that pattern, and the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord in any key are going to be major. The 2, the 3, and the 6 in any key are going to be minor, and the 7th chord is diminished. Now, there is a convention that's very frequently used. You'll come across it in my lessons and other people's lessons, other stuff you'll find online. And it's this idea of, instead of writing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 with sort of normal numbers here, and then writing out the major and minor for each of the scale degrees, what we can do is use Roman numerals, okay? So Roman numerals are, I think about the Super Bowl is probably the most place where they're the most frequently used. You only have to memorize them up to 6 or so, right? So notice how the 1, the 4, and the 5 here, right? Those chords are all written as uppercase. And what that means is that they're major, right? They're major chords. The 2, the 3, and the 6 are written as lowercase, which is going to designate minor, right? Now for the 7th chord, right, we have that 7 Roman numeral with the little degree symbol. That's going to represent diminished. But again, it's so infrequently used, I wouldn't worry about it right now. But just this system of using Roman numerals is very helpful. Now you would speak these out loud just like you're saying regular numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The major and minorness is sort of just assumed or implied. You don't need to necessarily specify. If I tell you the chord progression is a 1, 5, 6, 4, okay, the 1 chord in the key of C, for example, the 5 chord, the 6 chord is minor, and the 4, right? The major and minorness are just sort of implied based on the sort of default chords in each key that I talked about in the previous lesson, okay? So this is a cool thing about Roman numerals, but we also sometimes can use Roman numerals to talk about a chord that is major or minor when it shouldn't be. And that happens in music sometimes. So for example, we could do a 1 chord, then we could do a 3 chord, a major 3. So we would say major 3, that would be a B. Then we might go to our 4 chord, and then we might have a minor 4, okay? Radiohead's song Creep, for example, uses this progression. We're going from a G to a B, to a C, to a C minor. If we wrote that out with Roman numerals, it would be a 1 chord, a major 3 chord, right? A 4 chord, and then a minor 4 chord, okay? So I'm just sharing that example because you can take these Roman numerals and switch the case accordingly if a song is going to use a chord that is minor when it normally would be major, right? We also can add 7th chords to these, and we would write these out literally, just like that, right? I could write a 1 chord, and then a 4 chord, and then a 5, 7 chord. The 5 is the Roman numeral, the 7 is what's added next to it. That's going to tell me that take whatever the 5 chord is, in this case it's G, and then just play a G7. So I had to know how to play a G7, of course, but that can be something you can do with Roman numerals as well. So those are just a few examples of chord progressions and how they can be communicated with Roman numerals, and then it leaves you to decide which key to play it in. The 12-bar blues is probably the most famous example of this, where when you're learning the 12-bar blues, you're going to see it presented like this. And the assumption is, hey, take this progression and apply it to whatever key you want. But the progression is what matters. It's not the exact key you're playing it in. So that's just a little taste of Roman numerals and chord progressions, which I'll cover in future lessons as well. But if you ever see Roman numerals written, this is what it refers to. It's just the number of the chords in each key, right? And I had this PDF cheat sheet available for this lesson as well. It gives you a handy table looking at the most common keys and those Roman numerals, right? You're going to want to memorize, again, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major. The 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor. That's some of the most valuable things for you to commit to memory when you're getting started. And otherwise, when it comes to memorizing the chords in each key, just get the printout, follow along, start with 1 key or 2 keys, memorize the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords. And over time, you're naturally going to fill in those gaps, okay? So hope this was helpful for you. And next, let's look at major and minor chords. We're going going to cover that in the next lesson. And I'm going to talk about what's really happening as far as how these chords are built and making sure you understand how they work. All right, so I'll see you in that lesson.